Well, shalom, good morning everyone. Great to be back in Tel Aviv. My name is Michael Oros. I'm the Executive Director for SNIA. It's great to be back in this wonderful city. We even brought some great weather for winter months. I've been enjoying the Mediterranean, the sunshine, and getting our vitamin D on. But great to see familiar faces from the past 2 years of events here, as well as new ones. Welcome. Look forward to having a great conversation today. We have a great lineup of sessions that we'll give a quick preview here as we get started. But most importantly, the valuable aspect of what we call the hallway sessions. Please enjoy, connect with your colleagues. This is a great opportunity. Many of you work for competing companies, but these are those opportunities during the year where we come together as an industry to collaborate and advance forward the entire industry that we support. So interact with one another, say hello, make those relationships so we can more easily work together and collaborate and solve the tough industry challenges that are ahead of us in the next years as we continue to transition and bring new technologies to market. SNIA, hopefully everyone's familiar, since you are at a SNIA event, what we do. We aim as an organization, our vision, to be the global leader where new storage technologies and idea are brought for the industry to collaborate. You'll see even throughout this event, but even this evening, we have some birds of a feather session. We're constantly looking for those new ideas and topics where we bring competitors to the table to collaborate and define how they're going to work together. One of the topics this evening will be on DNA storage, something that's been around for a while, but as we learn, technology continues to advance, and we get to the point where what at one point was sci-fi becomes practical, not just from a technology, but financial and implementation perspective. So look forward to those conversations, and of course, the other important ones, security and other fun topics that we have lined up. In terms of what SNIA does, we are, again, at the core, a standards development organization. We are an organization, a mutual benefit organization, by the member companies for your benefit. So the more you participate and contribute, the more value you are going to get out of this organization and what we bring to the table. Of course, if you're going to do standards, and keep in mind we do have a mechanism by which we do open source standards as well. So there's a mechanism by which contributor license agreement, even outside non-members can contribute to those projects that the SNIA board designates as open source. So keep those in mind. We have a list on our website. But if you're going to do standards, of course, you have to do interoperability and compliance testing, right? That's the whole reason you do a standard, is to ensure that people that are developing products in the same realm, when they are deployed out in the marketplace, when they make it into the wild, and your customers buy things, they buy and put technology in a heterogeneous environment, meaning they will have to work with your competitor's product at a fundamental level, at minimum, to be managed as they're being deployed in the marketplace. And of course, as these new technologies get deployed, there's potential for confusion. So SNIA has, as part of this charter, education. We do education on new technologies from a vendor-neutral perspective, and this is very important because we don't give you a particular vendor slant on a new technology. We give you a whole industry and vendor-neutral perspective to get down to the core of what is the new technology, where does it fit in the current ecosystem, and what are its pros and cons, and how does it compare to the rest of the solutions that are in the space. It's very important. We have tremendous amount of resources available for you guys on the SNIA website. We've made it easier. We put a very dynamic searchable database in place that you can get content from conferences such as this, both the international as well as the US Developer Conference going back 10 plus years, search by author, subject, event, and on topics anywhere from very basic introductory aspects, because there's always new people, young people coming into this industry, and they need to be educated on the fundamentals before they can go flying into the latest and greatest technologies, all the way to those advanced and some controversial topics where we do comparison between those technologies, again, in a friendly, vendor-neutral manner. The areas of focus in SNIA are vast. SNIA's been around for over 20 years. We do work on the latest breaking technologies such as computational storage, persistent memory, all the way to things that have sustained and driven this industry back in the day and continue to be valuable today, like LTFS for tape. SNIA is the place where the file system is still continuing to be developed, and that spec continues to evolve, be submitted to ISO standards, etc. I don't have time to go deep into depth on all these things. We do cover these topics throughout the various sessions today. Please take a look. This is important. From security topics to the developing threat landscape in that space to taking accountability on how we design products and looking at power efficiency. SNIA has an Emerald spec that's adopted globally by not just the EPA in the US, but the European Union, in Japan, and other places where this spec is referenced and utilized for the benchmark. How do you design efficient storage technologies and how you measure that efficiency in a fair and equitable way across the world and across a variety of products. Again, you'll have access to this slide. This just gives you a perspective of what specs that we work on fit in which area. And this gives you a quick kind of summary of these are the active development, technology development specs that are going on in SNIA today. Again, you'll see in there ranging from evolution of persistent memory spec to key value API to some very exciting things that we're collaborating as an organization with other standards body. We have a vast and very good approach to how we work with the industry. If there's someone in industry that is already addressing an area, we go collaborate from them. We like efficiency. We're not going to duplicate work that somebody else is doing. We have strong strategic alliances in place with organizations such as DMTF, NVM Express, OFA, and many others, some that are actively being developed and finalized as we speak this month and next. So you'll see in there things like the native NVMe over Fabric drive specification that's being developed in SNIA. Again, we're collaborating with NVM Express on those things, as well as storage management on Swordfish and other aspects, looking how we're going to manage this growing ecosystem of storage products. SFF, we always have to remind ourselves in the industry that there's a physical world that all this technology has to live in. In the end, you still have to connect a physical drive to a physical chassis to a physical network cable. That all has to work efficiently for deployment and ongoing for servicing and operations. This is a group that joined SNIA a little over 3 years ago, called SFF, that develop standards at an incredible rate. They go through within 6 to 9 months and they fully develop a new spec and put it into publication and development. These are some of the specifications that they're currently working on. Again, this changes extremely rapidly with new things coming on board. There's over 66 companies in the world that are members of this group, ranging from all the major OEMs that all the way to hyperscalers such as Facebook and others that participate in this group. So keep an eye on this if you do anything with connectors, transceivers in that space or form factors. This is the group where these standards are being developed. I mentioned the education earlier, so SNIA organizes itself in technology communities. These are the key areas where we have industry companies that have come together to do marketing of a technology, not of a product, but of a technology, and education around that technology to the marketplace. This is that concept of lift all boats, everyone benefits by ensuring that we're using the same terminology. SNIA has an important tool towards that called SNIA Dictionary, where we define the storage terms, and from there we ensure that when we talk to one another, we are communicating at the same level. When we refer to a technology, we all understand what it means. So we have that commonality in language. This then goes and does education on those technology. Earlier this week, yesterday, we had a persistent memory hackathon that was teaching software developers how to take advantage and program to persistent memory, to make use of that technology that is now readily available in the industry from multiple vendors and service providers. So with that, I'll kind of make the call of get involved, what I said at the beginning. The more involved you are in SNIA, the more value you derive from this organization. So please join us. It's an opportunity to influence the industry. It doesn't matter that you are a multinational global organization or a startup. You have the same voice and opportunity to provide input and direction in technology specs that evolve all the way to ISO standards. Collaborate. It's your opportunity to work together. It's a shame to be in a position where we all continue to work independently in some new area. We constantly realize years later when we look back on those projects that sometimes were driven by individual companies and realize they were working extremely hard to go solve what were actually common problems across the industry, and they could have done that collaboratively, get it done much quicker, much more efficiently, cause far less issues and problems down the line for end users, and be in a position where you can turn around and put those resources and invest in innovation on top of those standards and deliver even more value to your end users. And as I said, lead the industry. You get an opportunity to have a voice, show what your company's thought is and your leadership position in the industry, what your vision for the storage industry and products are. It's an opportunity to show that to your colleagues in the industry at conferences such as this, the technical work groups, and throughout. So with that, I want to ask Alex McDonald to come up. As he comes up, though, I wanted to also take a moment to recognize some of our foundation leaders that got us here. As I mentioned, there's new people that come to the organization, but there's also those that have been around for a long time that help us get here. And today wanted to give recognition to Danielle, one of our former SNIA EMEA board members. Danielle, please. So Danielle has been around with SNIA for over 20 years, 21 years if I recall correctly, from its beginnings in Europe, the FCIA days, and the merger of those two organizations, and was part of the core team that helped establish this very event here that we now have in Tel Aviv. Again, pleasure to be here for the third year. We thank him for all his hard work and dedication. We're fortunate that he was able to join us here today to celebrate our third event and to recognize him as well. The SNIA Board of Directors has inducted Daniel to the Hall of Fame, and we had an opportunity to celebrate that with him and the team last evening. So one more time, if we could have a round of applause as thanks and recognition for Daniel. And now, without further ado, Alex McDonald, our current chair of SNIA EMEA.
Morning. I think I met some of you yesterday, and there's some recognizable faces here. How do I look? I feel terrible. These beers are really quite excellent, but you can have too many of them. So, without further ado, just a little bit of housekeeping this morning. I'd like to thank all our sponsors. I don't know if any of you have ever run a conference. I don't know if you've actually gone to the effort of working out how they manage to fund themselves. These things are not cheap to run. And we end up having to look to the industry to get sponsors, and I'm really, really appreciative of everyone that's named here today. The event underwriter, IBM, and Andy Walsh is going to be up first talking for IBM. We've got a premier partner in Samsung, and then we've got a bunch of technology partners, and interoperability. Who's at the SMB3 Interoperability Lab? Any of you? One person. But there's a lab running upstairs, and I've just got to tell you this. We've got more people upstairs at the SMB3 Interoperability Lab than we get in Silicon Valley in the US, okay? This was a bigger event upstairs than it was in Silicon Valley. It's just, this is a terrific community. I'd like to, thank you all for making this such a success. And particularly, I'd like to thank all our partners for making this event possible. It's a terrific thing. So, there will be PDF versions of the presentation available on the website. The sessions are being recorded. They're going to end up on our SNIA YouTube channel, which I think is called SNIA. Is that right, the YouTube channel? Yep, that's it. Really simple and straightforward. We've got a Twitter handle as well if you want to do any tweeting this week. Don't follow me. Okay, all my tweets are about Scottish politics, which is really desperately uninteresting. And I was always taught there were 4 things you never discussed in polite company: race, religion, sex, and politics. So you don't want to follow politics, don't follow me. Follow SNIA_EMEA instead. There's also a SNIA Twitter handle as well that covers the entire organization. And there's also a LinkedIn group as well, should you want to use that. So, things you can't do here: you can't smoke, you can't vape, you can't ring a bell. No, the bell is about the fire alarm. If the fire alarm goes off, there are assembly points and out the front of the building. So if the fire alarm does go off, please avail yourself of the fastest method of exit to the assembly point. And don't turn your phone on either, on the ringer. A little story here. I was once giving a presentation and somebody from a competitor, his phone went off. And I threatened people that if the phones went off, I was going to fine them 50 euros. And he thought he would get away with it. And he answered his phone. But as he was leaving the door, I actually caught up with him. I'd left the podium and I got him. And he did actually give me 50 euros, which I thought was a really splendid thing to do. But I'm just warning you, I can move. I may not look like I can, but I can move. And you also got the network name and the user ID and the password. I think the password is all uppercase, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Which for some people will be a frustration. Others it will be just simply a novelty using the shift key. So what have we got today? Well, we're going to start off with Andy Walls of IBM. I'll introduce him in a second. And then we have Javier Gonzalez, who is Principal Software Engineer at Samsung, and I'll introduce him too. Then we've got a break. We're going to divide the room in 2. So this room goes from being the Crystal Ballroom into the Tiffany on one side and the Koh-i-Noor on the other. But basically it's A, that's track A over here, and B, track B over here. So the room will be divided in 2 so that we can do that. So if you'd leave at the break, that would be quite helpful. Then after the break, you'll come back. I'll be talking, so hey, if you want to hear a Scotsman with a deeply unpleasant accent, then join me. But we'll have a number of presentations in 2 tracks, and then out to lunch, which is sponsored by IBM. Thank you, IBM, again. Then after lunch, come back in the afternoon, and the next break is around about, what time is that, 15:30, thereabouts, middle of the afternoon. And then right at the back end, there are lightning talks. We're going to all come together and do, there are a number of 5-minute sessions where people are going to do a really brief presentation. Has anyone ever been to lightning talks? No? They're quite fun. They'll be really good fun. And some of them actually aren't on topic, which is even more fun. And then at the conference will end. So your feedback's vital. We've actually got a really very decent of Samsung to provide 4, I'm going to repeat that, it's a big number, bigger than 1, flash drives. And you only get that if you fill in the feedback form. And to encourage you to stay on, we're going to do it at the end, and if you're not here, you don't get. There are 4 of them. I'm just counting. You stand a really, really good chance. Really good chance. So we do need, the feedback forms are essential for us. They help us tailor the event properly and make sure that we're addressing the right issues. But that'll be done at the end. And you can complete it anonymously if you prefer, in which case you don't get Anyway, you work that out. So, we're delighted to be here. We're going to continue to be here. This is a great conference for us. This has been a really good 3 years that we've had coming here. And the only thing I can suggest that you do is if you're not a member of SNIA, join. And if you really want to sponsor, please talk to me, because that sponsorship makes for these kind of events. I can hear a phone going off. 50 euros, whose phone was that? Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. It's Andy Walsh, who's here. Andy is an IBM fellow and chief architect and CTO for IBM's flash systems. An IBM fellow is a really serious thing. I mean, it's IBM's one of IBM's greatest honors that they can actually pass on you. He's a pioneer in enabling MLC flash in the enterprise, developed infrastructure for servers and storage, high performance, endurance, availability, all the things that we like. Andy's been responsible for that inside IBM. He was responsible for the Texas Memory acquisition. Anyone remember Texas Memory? Yeah? See, there's people that actually know Texas Memory. It's quite incredible. Excuse me. And defined the architecture for the flash system 840, 900, V9000, and A9000. He is defining next generation products that can be used in traditional SAN environments as well as the cloud and by emerging workloads. Widely recognized as an expert in storage and flash, and he's designed ASICs, PCBs, firmware stacks, and systems. What hasn't this man done? Quite a list. Known as an innovator, he's applied for or filed over 100 patents, or patents, depending on your point of view. Andy's worked for IBM his entire 35-year career and holds a BS in electrical engineering from University of California, Santa Barbara. So without further ado, Andy, welcome.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Yeah.